What is Apocrypha? It's a Greek word that simply means hidden, and it only came to mean books that are outside of the biblical canon. So what would have happened is that in the early church, they would have had an entire collection of books. And they use a testing mechanism, and that testing mechanism is called the canon. And for example, one of the things the canon checks for is, does a book shows evidence of divinity? Does it have a divine element to it? All right. The second thing that the canon will do is the canon checks for the author, but the author must be alive during the time the book is written. You cannot have a book being written by an author after the author is dead. Right? So that is what they will do. And what they will do is that books that passed the canon became part of the scriptures. And books that failed the canon became part of the Apocrypha. Now, it doesn't mean that the book is necessarily, the context of it is incorrect. It simply means that the stringent tests of the canon, it didn't qualify. For example, 2nd and 3rd John got rejected because the author said he was an elder and not an apostle. So by him saying he's an elder and not an apostle, it got rejected. Until they were able to verify that it was indeed John who wrote the Gospel of John and Revelation, then it got accepted. The book of Enoch surfaced inside of the 400 silent years. But Enoch flew away before the flood. So what happened? He write it in heaven and throw it down in the 400 silent years? Where the book exists and where he exists, you have a huge gap between the two. So that's the first failure. So that is how you measure the difference between the canon books and the Apocrypha books. What the canon of scripture does is that it divides the difference to show you the books that have the highest standard with the books that have standards. When we talk about the Apocrypha books, this is what we're talking about, and there's a whole list of them which you'll see written at the bottom there. For example, the Wisdom of Solomon, Bel and the Dragon, the Prayer of Manasseh, Letter to Jeremiah. All of these are called the Maccabees, Susanna. All of these are all referred to as the Apocrypha. And there are two types of Apocrypha. You have the Old Testament Apocrypha, you have the New Testament Apocrypha.